Family, it's your boy Lamont Faith Son, and y'all already know I'm still in the building with another episode of You Versus Yourself podcast, where the truth and you collide. Listen, I'm not gonna belabor the point today. I'm not gonna play any games with you. I got a superstar in the house today in the comedian world. Y'all already see he down with the jokes. That's my man, Mr. Buddy Lewis. Welcome to the show and You Versus Yourself podcast. I appreciate you being here, sir.
Hey, man, thank you for having me. You know what, man? Whenever I see people do podcasts, I'm sorry, I just saw this. I hate this. I hate when they have junk in the background. You know, it's like, man, clean your place up. All right.
Hey, but that's you being you, so that's important, right?
Yeah, I'm being me.
Like that stuff up. Kelly, my show is award-winning You Versus Yourself podcast.
Award-winning. I thank you, man, for having me, man. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you. I met you one time before in person. I think we hung out at the Virgin Hotel here in Las Vegas.
I was actually shooting a Chris Spencer movie called Back on the Strip. We were shooting, that was like a year and a half ago, man. We met shooting this movie and we had drinks and things.
Yeah, we did, man. Just relaxing and chopping it up. You guys are always jokes, and you don't never know when you guys are serious because some of you guys are so witty with it.
You got to keep them off balance, baby. You know, keep on balance.
Even now, I'm like, I got to make sure he don't use me.
Man, go for it, man. Go for it, man. Don't worry about me. I'm gonna make it work.
So let me ask you a question, buddy. I've always been fascinated with comedians.
Okay.
Because one of the things that I've always said, many of us, we go to school for certain things. And I got my degree and I know exactly what that is. And if you go to school, for the most part, anybody can do it. But that's not the same for comedians. I don't care if you went to college. I don't care what you've done. Anybody can't do it. So how did you get started in comedy and how did you come to find out that you were a funny guy?
Okay, that's a very interesting question, man. So how do I get started? Because there is no comedy school per se. You know what I mean? Most people have a natural inclination for either being humorous or being outspoken, you know, that sort of thing. So, you know, the mentality, I think, for a lot of comics is similar. They're usually middle children.
That's funny, right there.
Because they don't get the baby love and they don't get the oldest love. So they fighting for attention a lot of times. And so I think mine developed out of, I had a very enormous imagination and sense of humor since I was a kid, man. And a matter of fact, going back to when I was in high school, I was voted most humorous like sophomore through senior year. So I was that dude. I was the outspoken, loud talking, you know, you and your mama dude. That was my thing, man. So, they used to bring people over for me to talk about. Buddy, what you think of this? Man, them shoes are terrible. So that was my thing. And man, when I was growing up, there was a show called Make Me Laugh. It was Make Me Laugh, and they would pay people. We used to do a version of that on our lunch hour, and we would give out like we had a commissary at our school, so you could go buy snacks. We would give out commissary tickets. If we could make you laugh, if you could stop from laughing, you would get commissary tickets. But we didn't pass out many tickets.
Right.
Because we had them laughing. They would come in there, and me and this guy named my boy Dave Christopher, and it was like 5 of us that were had like a baby little improv group. And we would make, we would do humorous stuff to try to make people laugh. So to go back to your question, how did I get started? It started when I was a kid, man. So I left, I went to Howard, and I was a microbiology major. Again, I took an alternate path to comedy. Man, I decided that while I was in school, I was going to try it. Right after I got out of school, and I realized I wasn't going to dental school. That 5-credit D in organic chem, that was like, I might have to be taking some more classes, and I wasn't about it. So I said, let me see if I can do this. And I started performing, and I got into a competition in DC, and I got 3rd place behind Tommy Davidson and this guy named Craig Frazier, who was my partner. We had a comedy duo, and he beat me with some of my own jokes. I was like, you know what? I can do this. And I left I started performing in DC, and I met a lot of guys there. Martin, matter of fact, I say Martin from probably having a career. He probably never admit this, but one night he started fighting this guy, and people don't know Martin got skills. Martin got hands. And
Yeah,
Martin's a professional boxer, and
yeah,
so
I saw that, man. I was
yeah,
shocked by that.
man, Martin, this boy came in. You know how guys sometimes they get drunk and they get touchy feely and they start, yeah, Marty, come on, man. And Martin was like, oh man. Next thing you know, Martin gave his brother a 2-piece, a bucket. Uh he gave him the 5-piece and extra crispy with the jalapeno pepper. He gave him all of he gave it all to him.
Man, when I see Martin on TV, man, and he be doing all this boxing,
Oh,
and he plays a security guard like in
yeah.
box. I didn't know that this dude was actually involved in boxing a while ago. That was interesting.
Yeah, man, he knocked this boy out, and the boy was so knocked out. You know how you ever see somebody fall and don't drop their drink?
Oh, wow. No, that's crazy.
And so he was mad because Martin had told to beat him up, and so he said, "I'm calling the police, man." This was before cell phones, so it took him a minute to get there. And I said, "Martin, you need to get on out of here, man, because he's calling the police, right?" And I'll tell him when the police come in what happened, man. And Martin was like, "Yeah, okay, okay." And Martin left because he was supposed to perform, and we
Yes.
were at the comedy club on K Street. And
Mm.
Martin left. I don't know how the police didn't see Martin as they came in and he was leaving.
Oh,
And so he left. I went, man, you would have been buddy's an actor. I went in yeah, man, it was this dude's fault, man. He had it, man, he was talking trash to Martin and he pushed him and he threw his drink on him. I'm embellishing.
homeboy. Yeah, I get it.
But Martin ended up getting out of there. Man, that was in DC, and we're talking like 1988 or 9 at the time, because I left DC. I believe at that time, man, if had to stay, he would got arrested
Wow.
for assault. And
Wow.
so, because I mean, when I tell you, man, this dude was bleeding in his beer. Out here, and I came out here after that. So I've been out here in LA since like 1989, and I've been out here pursuing a career in entertainment. So how did I start? High school to this. I also took an alternative route my junior year to pledge. So I'm a member of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, wrote to the bros. So I needed extra credit time.
Yeah, I get it. I
My
get
degree, I finished. I thought I was going to go to dental school or sell pharmaceuticals. That was my
it. Mhm.
real big option.
Well, there was a passion for this comedy.
I was silly. My line name was Joker.
Okay, yeah, I see that in the email.
I was the Joker, man. And so, I use my sense of humor. That's how I talk to. That was how I got myself into the good graces of the females. I was joking, I was laughing. I was the life of the party. And when I came in, the party had started. And I was a campus pal, which was an organization that helped orientate the freshmen when they came in. You show them around. You were their liaison to understanding campus life. You were like a mentor. And we did shows for the incoming freshmen.
Yes.
We went on tours around the city. This is all kind of stuff we did. You took campus tours, and we took a trip to King's Dominion and all that kind of stuff, right? So to this very day, man, I'll run into people. We're talking 40 years later. You were my campus pal. I'm like, what? I was that dude that was, helping people, trying to, so I talk with people and got with people. So that was my thing.
Let me ask you a question. If you go and you play college basketball, you might go to the NBA,
Mm-hmm.
but the chances are not good.
Right.
If you from high school and you want to go to college, the chances are still shaky to go play college ball.
Mm-hmm.
When you do a set in
Mm-hmm.
comedy and it does not go well,
Mm-hmm.
how does Buddy Lewis handle that?
Oh, that's a good question, man. First of all, bombing is a learning experience. Crashing, and the alternate is as you killed or you murdered, whatever. But when you bomb on stage, it's a learning experience, and it's two things. One, every comic has bombed. If you haven't, you either haven't been doing it long or you're lying,
Okay.
saying you haven't. So every comic has had a night where it didn't go well. Now you've seen videos online where they get to throwing stuff at you.
Yeah.
So I do
Yeah.
get ran out of a club the other night. I'm like, what? But what you have to do in those instances, man, is it's a learning experience, and you've got to assess what is your responsibility and accountability in that night. What did you do? What did you say to have that reaction to your material? All right, so you got to look at it from that standpoint and go, okay, I need to fix these jokes. I need to change this thing. I need to have read the room a little bit better and go, okay, what is my thing in this? Because the audience is the audience. Most of them came paid to laugh. And
Mhm.
so your job is to make them laugh. You're supposed to deliver material or give them your perspective on things and say, hey, laugh at this. And if they're not laughing, it's partially your fault because you didn't set the jokes up well. You were in a room where you were telling material. Like, it's just like you got to read the room. Bruh,
Right.
if you're in a room full of black people, you can't be talking about, I'm a MAGA supporter. This might not go well. You got to read the room. And so sometimes a lot of comics, man, don't read the room. Who you are as a comic, some of these rooms aren't your sphere. That might not be your room. You know what I mean? If you're a comic that does real elevated, highbrow, sort of educational comedy, you might not want to be in a room in the middle of Compton where they playing dominoes and it's chicks, it's Negroes in there, half-ass not listening to the stuff you say.
Right. That's more of a Mike Epps arena.
Yeah, that might be Mike Epps. That might be, that might be Scrancho. That might be some other people. That might be their venue. And vice versa. You can't be at a country club being your Doodle Brown. It might not work. So I'm saying, hey, you got to pick and choose, and then your audience, you need to scope it just a little bit, and take accountability as a comic, uh, to say, hey man, these are some things I can do different, and this is how I work it. That was a learning experience. Okay, and then you got to get your ass back up on stage if this is what you really want to do. Michael Jordan says in his book, you look at the 6 times I won a championship, but look at all the times that I failed. Michael Jordan didn't stop when he got rejected for his high school basketball team. He had to come back and he had to say, okay, what do I need to do? I need to get better. I need to. Okay, I'm going to make myself undeniable, and that's what you got to do. You got to get back on stage and keep working. Because, bro, I guarantee you, there's going to be some nights, there going to be some days. There have been some comics that have bombed out on big stuff, major
Mhm.
stuff. Like, oh
Right.
man, he was on TV, and man, that was terrible. And oh my goodness, and you can't please everybody. You know, everybody's not gonna find you funny. You got to find your niche. You got to find your people, and you got to find your audience and get in there. You got to find, hey man, how can I be universally funny in this room tonight to this subset of people? Let me see how I can get this done.
I appreciate that information. I do have another question for you. This is geared more toward what I do on
Okay.
my podcast and for a living, and that
Okay.
is
What do
assisting
you do for a living? What do you do,
right,
Lamont Wayne? What
assist
do you
people in their healing, help
hey,
them with their
what,
anger.
the real job or that side job where you
That got it
look
right
here,
there.
baby, bring me my money.
And I'm passionate about it, right?
Okay.
But my question is, I saw a comedy show, and I think I've seen this twice in my lifetime. And I may have seen a little bit more than that because I think Richard Pryor as well.
Hmm.
Richard Pryor, Kevin Hart, and Jamie Foxx. Now, obviously, I don't know all of the
Hmm.
comics,
Okay.
but I remember them talking about their pain,
Mm.
their
Hmm.
comedy. And so,
Mm.
my question for you, do you ever tell jokes that stem from your pain? And is that a way of healing when you get out there in that atmosphere?
As I said, as a middle child, man, you're searching for, attention. As a kid, I think some of that tension, that trauma, and that attention need is satiated by me doing comedy. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? It was a defense mechanism for a lot of people to get through whatever they were going through. They used humor and they used laughter to try and work their way through their trauma and their pain. So I think many comics will take that pain and use it. When you listen to some of the material like a Mike Epps or Cat Williams, I mean, Think about his life, man. When you start talking about a guy like Richard Pryor, man, I mean, his grandmother was pimping out his mom in a whorehouse in Peoria, Illinois. I mean, you around Johns, pimps, and hoes, you're gonna have some trauma.
Right. And that's factual. Man.
I don't think I think all comics, man, have a bit of stress trying to relieve themselves from. I know you know us, man. We all are products or byproduct of our upbringing and our childhood and our trauma and our pain and what we dealt with, and it's our reaction to that makes us who we are. And sometimes you gotta talk people out of, okay, you're a narcissistic, criminally minded fool. What happened? Yeah, well, mama used to hit me in the head with a skillet, and you go, oh, okay. When you go back to find out, okay, your daddy used to kick you in the face when you
Yes.
didn't eat cereal.
I understand that. Right.
Why you set the dog on fire? So I think we have to find ways to get from under that pain and that trauma. And I think a lot of comics using comedy as a defense mechanism to overcome whatever it is whatever demons they're battling.
That was important for me to ask that question. I saw those guys. I said, I can imagine that speaking on it, having a conversation about it. And Richard Pryor was real vivid with his pain use and being set on fire. Like, that's amazing therapy.
If you're observational kind of comic like myself, and it's passionate thing of mine to talk about the stuff that's going on with me. I mean, and I think that's the realest bit of comedy, and it's taking the way you see the world, your perspective, and I think telling it in a humorous way. Like, I'm a huge fan of Patrice O'Neal. His mind, bro, the way he saw things was just, you go, oh man, his perspective on things, like when he talked about women, your sex is like a bear with fish, and he was saying, you come into the thing, I smell fish, I want fish, but I can't have it. And so Dave Chappelle, Cat Williams, man, they have such an interesting Mike Epps, his the world he grew up in, bro. Him talking about that, and I'm from the same general area. Me and Mike have some similar stories. Like, he tells a story about the teacher with the bad arm, that teacher that he's talking about, and he ended up becoming the principal at my high school, but he was a librarian. And Mr. Reddy, he used to sing, hey, man, and he would shimmy the cord through his hand. Mike talks about the characters in his world, and some of those characters are familiar to us as people, because we all got an uncle that with the cigarette in his mouth, and we all had the mom or neighbor mom that used to cuss out her kids in a house coat and cut the lawn. She did all of that. So in curlers, we seen that.
Is there a difference in stand-up comedy and sitcom comedy? What's the difference?
I think a lot of sitcoms are manifestations or shows created around guys stand up. If you look at Tim Allen, Mark Curry, or Martin, he talked about his relationships. That was his shtick. Bill Cosby was family. So you find material. Now, if you find material that's for a show, that used to be one of the things for comics. You need to have a POV, which is a point of view that they could take your material. I call it some lazy people shit. They were just lazy. You could be a talented guy, but they want your stand-up to be able to be written into the show. And I'm like, no, man, write a show, put me in it because I'm talented, But the thing now is to really find material that you can mold and manipulate into a show. I think, yes, a stand-up can be used for a sitcom, but there's some sitcom actors and comedians that will make themselves funny in a sitcom without. So, for example, like, they kind of used lines, Pops, John Weatherspoon and family going bang, bang, bang. Using what you do as a talent and putting it in a sitcom, is what they do. It's what you should do.
I've been watching comedians lately. I think I saw Dion Cole might have been on Shay Shay,
Mm-hmm.
and Ari Spears been on
Vlad.
Lab TV or something,
Mhm.
and Corey Holcomb.
Okay.
Yeah. Here's my question. Let me do this way.
Okay. I ain't telling no secrets.
Let me do
No,
this
joking.
way. It seems like a lot of comedians are going at each other today. And I couldn't comprehend why that was happening
Mm.
in our community. I'm like,
Mhm.
why are they coming at? Well, this person sucked last night. I'm like, why are they talking like that? And they in the same type of business. And according to you and a few other comics, anybody can have a bad day, a
Mhm.
bad set. Why are we coming at each other like that?
There's a lot of personalities in comedy. I think their comedy is from a vindictive nature. It
Okay.
comes from an adversarial sort of, that's their shtick. They're adversarial. They're kind of mean spirited. They kind of, they're not observing stuff about themselves. They're talking about other people. They're so, I think sometimes those personalities, bro, are real. And if you're a comic that uses observation or talks about himself or whatever, sometimes that's who they really are personally. And like, again, it goes back to your thing about healing, bro. Some of these comics aren't healed. They got issues. When you make them confront their issues, they don't like it.
Mhm.
Or you are a comic that's always talking about women. Sometimes some women take what you say personally, and when it's their issue, or you're a comic that talks about the differences between black and white people. Some people, excuse me, white folks gonna take issue. Man, I used to do this joke, man, where I used to say that I couldn't stand the way black kids were getting named nowadays, and then women would try to, make it sound African or something. What's your name? Ashanika Halalika Lika. And it's like, well, my name means African violence by the flowing river. Now your mama couldn't spell Jane, is what I. And so I one night I came out of the club and a girl was highly offended. I mean, this sister the fact that you're saying that black women can't spell, I was like, listen, if you didn't like the joke, that's understandable. I get it. But confronting me ain't gonna make me stop doing it. And this is what happens with a lot of comics. When you tell them they don't like something, we're the kind of people that be like, nah, I'm gonna dig in deeper.
Does it ever go too far, buddy? For example, I saw Kevin Hart's roast. And
Hmm.
man, it was so much backlash. And I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
like, aren't these just jokes? Tell me about that. If there's a such thing as crossing the line, is there any rules in comedy where you say, no, don't do that, don't touch that?
Yes, there are rules, but usually they're self-imposed. There are no limits when you can say what you want to say. We're in a free country. You can say what you want to say. But the rules are self-imposed. Like, I'm not going to go there. Like, for example, you can talk about kicking a puppy, but bro, if you really go out and you make a video where you kicking a puppy, you might go too far. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody in here knows back in the day, you could use all reference of gay. They call it slander now, but making jokes, calling someone gay or this or using the F word, it was accepted. In rap music, you do it now, you're gonna have a problem. Do it. You can do it if you want to deal with that smoke. If you
Mhm.
want to deal with the smoke, go ahead. Dave Chappelle was like, hey man, I'm talking about these transgender people and I'm gonna give
Yeah.
them smoke. It wasn't derogatory per se to him in a sense where he was telling his truth,
Mhm.
but to the community, they were offended. So there is no black comic in here that will do a joke that says something offensive against some Jewish people. You ain't gonna do it. Even in your mind, it won't allow
Right,
you.
right. Unless you're ready to retire.
Unless you ready to be telling jokes at the AmVets in Compton for the rest of your career, then yeah, go ahead. No, but you reach a point, man, where um you say to yourself, okay, I'm gonna be free of and I'm going to say what I want to say and be damned the consequences. There are some comics that are free. Like Corey Holcomb, to his credit, but he's free. He don't care.
Yeah.
And once you get there and you can say what you want to say without caring about the consequences per se,
Mhm.
because you're saying this is my truth and this is what I believe and this is my opinion. And because in reality, that's all comedy is. It's just your opinion. And my dad always told me, your opinion ain't wrong. Because you can always say, in my opinion. It's not a fact. It's
Right.
just that, bruh, this is what I'm saying. This is how I feel about it. And so once you reach a point where this is how I feel about it, and you don't care about the consequences, you're free. Richard Pryor was free.
Yeah, Richard used to go.
Bruh, he went to places he
Yeah.
didn't care. Back to your reference to the roast. The president of the United States, it says stuff because he's free. He can say whatever he wants without consequence. And so people want to believe they are him. And so and black people want to believe I can do the same thing. And we already know we can't do what they do. And we can't say what we want to say because we're not free.
Yeah. We don't have that power at work. We're taking you off. I mean, you don't have no control
You
over
don't
it.
have to, right. And like I said, you can do and say whatever you want if you're ready to deal with the consequences. If the consequences don't outweigh what you feel you can get from it, then you're not going to be afraid to say it. I'm not afraid of the consequences.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, before we wrap this thing up, buddy, I got to put you on the spot. I got to put you on the spot.
No, go ahead, man. Okay.
Who are your goats?
Goats.
The Richard
Ooh.
Pryor era.
Ooh.
Then I'm gonna
Okay.
bring you to the present.
Okay, goats, man. The comics I would put on my goat Mount Rushmore, and it's like 4 or 5 of them. So of course, Bill Cosby, Richard Pryor, Eddie Murphy, Sinbad, Damon Wayans, Dave Chappelle. My contemporaries, people who grew up with me or came up behind me, man, they goaty. But yeah, I'm talking about guys. Of course, you know Chris Rock and Dave Chappelle are in there, but I feel like the wage to pay wasn't with them. They hadn't opened no doors for me.
Right.
I remember when Chris Rock used to struggle in black rooms. I remember when Dave Chappelle started. We all started in DC together. So, Martin and I started in the same rooms together. So it's not like it's not that I don't respect them or admire what they do. And when I talk about goats and people that were doing it, bro, and you're like, oh my God, I want to be like them. Franklin Ajay, bro, come on, man. George Carlin,
Yeah.
those are my people.
Okay, I appreciate that, man, because I see a lot of comedians get put on the spot about that.
I won. Moms Mabley. People do not know how funny that woman was. Robin Harris, and of course, J. Anthony Brown. Brad Sanders was the guy who got me on the writing tip. When I got to LA, was at the Comedy Theater. That was like the only place black folks could work. We didn't really get to go to some of the mainstream rooms until later on in my career. I wasn't able to work at a lot of those mainstream rooms. And to this very day, my name is on the wall at the Comedy Store and I can't get spots. And I've been in this business 40 years, going on 40 years, and it's still tough for me to get a spot. So you're like, hey man, it's a weird thing, but and I know it ain't about talent.
I got 2 things for you before we leave. First, what projects are you working on now, and what have you done in the last 3 or 4 years? Because I know you was doing some writing.
I just finished a movie that's now rolling on. It's on BET Plus, I think, called War Dogs. I had a small part in that. My part got cut. My boy Kevin Griever's first time director, man, and this guy is a proven entity, man. He was the creator and writer of the Underworld series with the vampires and the werewolves. He did I Frankenstein and a whole bunch of stuff. He was first time director. They gave him some money and they took it back and cut his days, and so my part got cut out. That's why you can't tell people you in stuff sometimes when you're movies. You get to the premiere and be like, "Where's my part?" On the cutting room floor. You edited it. I'm working on a couple of things, man. Working on a project right now called The Biz. I wrote a pilot with Ralph Hawkins and Mindy Rosario. I'm working with Chris Spencer on our podcast, Real Husbands of Hollywood. We're doing a podcast called The Real Writers of Hollywood. We're starting our podcast. I do a podcast with my friend Reggie Rogers, coaching a comic. And I just got a few things, man. I got a big animation that got wrote up in the Dateline. It's called Groove Tales. They mention everybody's name in it, but mine. Yeah, that's why, bro. This is Hollywood, bro. I come on that Hollywood BS sometimes, bro. They be like, "It was almost famous."
Like, man, I was supposed to be in here, but they cut him apart.
The biggest thing, man, I'm really excited about is Kim Whitley and I are going back to our roots. Whacked Out Wednesdays is returning. We have a lot of famous folk that got their starts on Whacked Out Wednesdays, and I can tell you, I can go through the list. Ida Rodriguez, Nick Cannon, whole bunch of people used to come through there in the beginning. This is the only place they could work, so I gave them time, and now we're bringing it back. So every first Wednesday, come on out, man. You gonna come down from wherever you are, man, and come check out the show on first Wednesday.
Man, I'm definitely coming down there,
Okay,
man.
cool.
I'm gonna have to take a ride and come see.
Do that.
Yeah, I'm all over there, and I'll let you know when I'm coming.
Perfect.
All right.
I'll get you a half price ticket.
Look, I still gotta pay. Boy, I don't get no love either.
So
So it's all
we-
good, man.
yeah, Lamonte.
They said we can't feed ourselves if you get in free.
I'm gonna feed me and you. Come on, man.
I appreciate you. And finally, what advice can you give to up and coming comedians? Because this is not an easy gig.
That's a good question, man. The biggest advice I can have is begin now. Start your career, man. This is something I didn't have, and I gotta learn how to do it. Learn how to put your act and learn how to create material for the internet. I know it sounds crazy. Even if you're taping your shows, tape them, videotape them, put your clips up. Start building your audience right now. Even if you're bombing, even if you're terrible on stage, you can use that footage for later. Go, this is how this joke started. This is what it sounds like now. So begin to use the internet to your advantage. Number 2, tape all your shows. Create. Don't allow yourself to go, I didn't go up tonight. Man, you got to go up and get stage time. You got to go up anywhere you can, get up, be up, and get stage time, because you're not going to get but 3 to 5 minutes when you first start out. You cannot become a professional comic doing that once a month. You got to do 3 or 4. When we were coming up, man, we would hit 5 or 6 stages a night.
Yes.
So
I heard comedians say that.
yeah, you got to be on your grind, bro. It's not to say you did it, it's to practice. You got to practice being in front of all different types of audiences, all times of night. Bro, I used to go up at 1 o'clock in the morning. After Robin Harris, we go down to some of these places, Marvel's Memory Lane. There's a band, there's 5 comics, and I'm not talking about regular comics. I'm talking about, Damon Wayans, Michael Collier, J. Anthony Brown. They all in the room. They done gone up, and then they'll put your ass up. They playing cards, they playing dominoes, they drunk. Bro, you got to learn how to work that room.
And to my family out there, I want to thank my special guest, Buddy Lewis, was in the building. And as I always say on You Versus Yourself podcast, being calm is cool. See you next time.
Root to the bros.